Hello and welcome to the Great Game Debate Podcast, where friends come together to talk about video games and our lives. It's your favorite host, Kaden Berthay Lane, that's me, and joining me this week is the father of the debate himself, Jonah Gomez. How you doing, buddy?
I've got a mild
Oh boy.
cold, and I'm on week four of my 6-day work week. So
Thanks.
once Christmas is over, I'm gonna be happy
Dead to the
and
world.
healthy. Hopefully happy and healthy. But yeah, I'm hanging in there. Yeah.
All right. Well, Godspeed. We are also joined by our man in the closet, Wes Bates. How you doing, buddy?
Aiden, you're my favorite host.
I knew it.
Doing good. Like Jonah said, we're getting to the end of the year. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to give a useless video game trivia. So here's this week's useless video game trivia. So you may or may not know that the original Donkey Kong arcade game was actually supposed to be a licensed Popeye game.
What?
It was not supposed to be Donkey Kong, but Nintendo lost the license, and so but they wanted to continue with the game, so they ended up just like changing Popeye into Mario, Olive Oil into God, I can't even remember the name. Help me out, Steven.
Peach.
Pauline, yes. Olive Oil became Pauline, and Bluto became Donkey Kong, and
Well,
they ended up.
God. Can you imagine? We wouldn't even have Mario.
We wouldn't have Mario or Donkey Kong.
Would we be
Imagine that.
playing like Popeye Odyssey right now?
Thank God for Popeye.
Super Popeye World, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
He's not getting power-up
Popeye
stars. He's
64.
just getting
Spinach.
cans of spinach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we just need to have someone mod Mario 64 to play Popeye instead of Mario. But we also are joined this week by our man in Australia, Stephen Beaumont. How you doing, dude?
How are we? The
Dude.
tangent that my brain went on was instantly when like Wes said that you were his favorite host, and all it made me think of is the drunken sailor from Death's Door, and that gave me this PTSD memories of Independence Day, and like hosting the body was just like the freakiest thing for a kid to
Hosting the
watch.
body.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. I hope you stopped by Planet ZDR and picked up the Omega Cannon, because it's time for the Icebreaker. All right. This week, since we don't have a special guest, there's no special guest interview, and I'm just going to toss it right on over to Jonah for the debate.
Well, see, there's another thing that's missing this week for the podcast, and we're not going to have a game at the end. So, I'll be passing the mantle on to our good buddy Wes Bates, and I think I'll be debating this week.
No way. This is
What?
insane.
What?
Take it away, man.
Okay. Yeah, so I have the honor of hosting or emceeing the debate this week, and it's actually going to be a head-to-head with Jonah Gomez versus Stephen Beaumont. And Jonah Gomez is going to be representing Jet Set Radio, while Stephen is going to be representing the Tony Hawk games. I believe the original Tony Hawk games, not the lesser versions that came later. Am I correct, Stephen?
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Okay, thank you for that.
So it's a fair fight.
Thank you for that clarification. Since this is such a momentous occasion, neither Caden nor I want to interrupt the purity, the sanctity, if you will, of this debate. And so there will be no assist trophy. It's just going to be straight up Jonah versus Steven. So to figure out who goes first, I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 10. I would like you to pick a number between 1 and 10. You tell me what your number is.
4.
Oh, I was going to say 4. 7.
The number was 9.
Oh, nice.
Steven, would you like to go first or second?
Man, this is an interesting one. I actually want to go. I want to go second for once. Yeah.
Damn it.
All right, Steven chooses to go second. Jonah, are you ready to debate?
Sure. Let's give this a whirl.
All right, I'm gonna count you down. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Debate.
All right. So, starting off, my favorite part of Jet Set Radio, and the thing that makes Jet Set Radio like its own thing, is its art style. It was one of the first games to have the cel-shaded art style, and the nice thing about that art style with a lot of games that are with that is it might have come out in like the early 2000s, but the game still looks good today. And polishing it, I mean, isn't that much. You just trim up the lines a little bit, and it's the HD versions look pretty good. Moving along, the soundtrack, while Tony Hawk does have a fantastic soundtrack, I will give it that. Jet Set Radio has like something entirely unique, and with its fun, funky hip-hop beats and kind of Neo-Tokyo style, it keeps you moving and grooving while you're grinding, wall riding, and flying through that game, you know? Another thing about that game is, yeah, it might not have all the flip tricks and whatnot that Tony Hawk has, but it does have awesome flips. You're still earning points, you're still grinding and wall riding all over the city, and you know, like, you've got all these crazy obstacles to climb up a tower and grind all the way down it and do a backflip off of it. It's super sick.
30 seconds.
We have boss fights and encounters, which are crazy fun. If you get the highest level in a lot of different districts in the game, you can unlock bosses that you end up fighting. I'll concede the rest of my time.
Okay, Jonah concedes with 10 seconds left. Thank you, Jonah. That was great. Steven,
thanks.
are you ready to debate?
Definitely.
Right. 3,
Go.
2, 1. Debate.
Okay, so first of all, thanks, Jonah, for dipping into your first debate. Like, I just want to say that just off the bat. But like, let's get serious here. Melancholy, Papa Roach, Rage Against the Machine, Bad Religion, Public Enemy, and Anthrax. If any of those if any of that music was introduced to you by Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, jump onto the Discord, click on that vote. Thanks, everyone. Like, this is not just a good soundtrack. This is iconic. This is groundbreaking. Not only do you have stuff that you probably had never heard before, like Public Enemy and Anthrax with Bring the Noise, with this rap rock mix, it also came out hilariously close to Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. Hybrid Theory came out the next month. So you were first introduced to this concept that started back in the early 90s of rock and rap, but then exploded with Linkin Park. So again, if you like Linkin Park, just jump onto the Discord, click that like button. Thank you very much. I don't really have to talk about how good it feels to play Tony Hawk 2, because everyone knows how good a combo chain feels. And they added manuals to Tony Hawk 2 so that you could keep that combo going. It was absolutely phenomenal just to grind all the way around. And oh man, there's so much to talk about. But I'll leave a little bit for the closing. But yeah, Tony Hawk 2, one of the greatest games ever, one of the best soundtracks, licensed soundtracks ever. Man, I can listen to it today. It's phenomenal.
Are you done? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, is this the first time in debate history where both opponents have conceded time?
I believe. Well, round? Yes, at least in the same round. Yeah, at the very beginning. Wow. I thought we were talking about. I thought we were talking about like great games here. But
do you guys play games?
This is fair play. This is all fair play.
I conceded time because I wanted to save some of my ammo for later.
Okay. All right. Well, now's your opportunity, because it's back to you for the rebuttal. Are you ready to rebut?
All right. Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Debate.
where Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 has a groundbreaking soundtrack, and it is, I'd say, the best part of that game. The visuals don't really hold up. The gameplay is good, but I mean, it's not near as smooth as Jet Set Radio's nowadays anyway. Granted, it did get a remake, and the remake did do very well, but we're not here to talk about the OG. Now, there's one thing I really can't stand about Tony Hawk is, yeah, it might have a character selector, but really all the characters are just different skins of just skateboard guy A. And with Jet Set Radio, you get all these different characters with different stats, and each one feels like its own character. One might be a little bit heavier and can take more damage from police that are coming at you, but he's a little bit slower. Or you can have a light, zippy character who can fly farther when they jump off rails and just go a hell of a lot faster. That being said, Tony Hawk's got one thing, and it's just skateboarding, whereas Jet Set Radio, you got boss fights, you got races, you got character unlocking, and the best part, you can tag up the entire town with all this insane exploration. Tony Hawk might have a little bit of exploration, but it's not to the vastness that Jet Set Radio has. That's all I got.
It was on
Okay.
fire.
15 seconds left on the clock, but some very excellent points. Steven, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about Jet Set Radio. Are you ready to go?
Definitely.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, debate.
So let's bring up two massive things that Jet Set Radio does wrong, and that is it includes two massively antisocial things. Thing one, rollerblading. If you wanted to have friends in the 90s, you went rollerblading. Look at this Exhibit A, rollerblading. Do you know how much wet this kid got while he was rollerblading? Goose eggs. Do you know how much wet I get now that I'm not rollerblading? Some. And then let's move on to graffiti. This is an illegal practice that is being encouraged in this game. What are we teaching to the children? Think of the children, please. But honestly, yeah, rollerblading is just, at the end of the day, it is less cool than skateboarding. You can do less with a rollerblade than you could do with a skateboard. The fact that you are saying that there aren't variations in the characters in Tony Hawk is hilarious, because you've got people like Rodney Mullen who pretty much invented street skating, where you can do Caspers, which is to flip the board and then use that to manual along with, and you've got Tony Hawk who does aerial stuff. There's a massive difference in the moves that each character can do, because it's based on their real world skills. These are real people that can do real moves, and yes, their special abilities sometimes are exaggerated, but most of the moves in the game are done by real people. I'll leave the closing for the kicker, so let's get amongst that when we get there.
All right, well, that's pretty much exactly your 2 minutes, so nice timing on that.
I like what you did there with saying the kicker, because it's ramp,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, I didn't even get it because I don't know anything about skateboarding, guys. That's so crazy.
All right, Jonah, we're here for your closer. Are you
Okay.
ready to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, debate.
All right, Steven. I very much understand who Rodney Mullen is and Tony Hawk and all the skaters that they have. I remember playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and they didn't feel like different characters. They didn't feel like I was really Rodney Mullen. It just felt like I was skateboarding, which, granted, that's a good thing. You want to feel like you're skateboarding when you're playing that game. That being said, Jet Set Radio takes you out of reality with magnetic rollerblades that let you grind, and seeing the sparks fly off of the rails when you're grinding and sticking to them and sticking to the walls, it feels so good. The combat where you're grinding, getting up behind your enemies, tagging them so they fall and they give up, awesome. And guess what? You fight police helicopters in this game that are shooting rockets at you. Can you do that in Tony Hawk? Nah. The game is super intense, like super over the top, and you get to explore different sectors and districts of this Neo Tokyo. Music's great, tagging's fun, moving around the city is a blast, and you know, I really want to go play Jet Set Radio again right now. I'll leave that 30 seconds on the table.
Okay.
Confident.
Yes, extremely confident. Maybe perhaps too overconfident, but we'll find out.
I wouldn't say I'm overconfident.
I'm just teasing you.
I'd rather stop instead of ramble and make my debate sound worse, you know?
Like me?
No.
All right. Steven, are you ready to wrap it up?
I am ready to wrap it up.
He's born to do it, folks. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Debate.
Okay. Let's get real. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, just literally one of the greatest sports games ever. It kicked off the action sports genre, like the arcade. It just blew it up, because before that you had things like Skate or Die, just really rough skating games before that. This just brought it to the forefront of popularity, and again, it introduced people to so much punk and hip-hop music that was just absolutely phenomenal, and stuff that I still listen to this day. One of the things about Jonah was saying that it doesn't get wacky enough. Like, that's the beauty of this arcade skater, is the fact that you can do a 900, but you're flying way up high in the air. There's the moon level with moon physics, secret endings. There's so many secrets in the game, which is so cool. Like in school, if you get down fast enough, then you can get into the pool and everything like that. It's just so absolutely dope. And obviously everyone likes cameos. We love the MCU. Everyone likes spotting a cameo in a movie. Like, what better than Spider-Man himself? Like, does your game have Spider-Man?
30 seconds.
No. Can your Spider-Man do a backflip? Wait, you don't have Spider-Man, but ours can do a backflip. And also you also got to introduce 2 skate videos as well. Like, there are AMVs inside of the game that got people into skate culture, so you could watch videos of the real life people doing it, and it's just phenomenal to be like, Bob Burnquist and do an eggplant. I love that game. That's real to the end.
That's it. That's time, everybody. Excellent work. Good
Incredible.
job to both parties.
Thank
So, Caden, I just before we go any farther, I would love to get your opinion on the debate here. How did you feel this? How do you feel this went?
Well, the debate itself went well. Congratulations to both
I agree.
competitors. You represented yourselves very well. I guess I just have to kind of go with like which games, like mechanics, like speak to my personal interests. Like not digging on either game. But if I have a choice between playing like score attack, get combos, try to get the high score, versus like grinding on like power lines and wall running off of like billboards and like tagging police officers to kill them with the power of punk. And
Was that
like
explained in the debate? Was that explained in the debate?
oh, he said you fight police, right? But yeah, that's a good point. He didn't say how you fight police. But Yeah, for me, Jet Set Radio just speaks to my interest as a gamer more than Tony Hawk. So gotta give it to Jonah on this one.
Woo. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I have played neither of these games. I have really no history with any of them. Obviously, other than through kind of general osmosis, you obviously have to learn about Tony Hawk if you like video games because, that's you you're not much of a gamer if you don't know about Tony Hawk.
I mean, it is
And
an iconic game, like for sure.
yeah, and I've seen Jet Set Radio here and there. Obviously, it's another game that's held fondly in the hearts of many. But I don't have any specific familiarity with either, personally. So, just going off of the things that I heard in the debate that interest me more, and that kind of sell the game more. Um, I understand that Tony Hawk is well known for its soundtrack. I feel like that was really one of the big talking points for selling Tony Hawk in the debate.
Yeah, for sure.
But I kind of want to know, like, what else is it about Tony Hawk that makes it special? And you mentioned, Stephen, during the debate that you don't have to tell anybody how good it feels to do
I
this and
guess
that. And
I
I'm
just
like,
thought everyone's played this game.
and I haven't played it, so I guess I really kind of would
There you
like to
go.
know more about how good it feels, and
Yeah.
and from that aspect, I think Jonah gave more specific details about what sells his game, what makes it unique, what makes it cool, what makes it fun, and uh, just based on that in and of itself, it made me more interested. I think maybe in if I was going to try one of these games, it'd probably be Jet Set Radio. So Jonah, you have my vote this week as well.
Woo!
Now
I
it's up to
was-
you, dear listener, to be on the right side of history when you vote.
Yeah, so we'll take it to the votes. We'll have a new vote up for this debate in the cast your vote section of the Discord. In the meantime, I'd just like to go back quickly to last podcast debate, where we had Tokyo Slim representing the Mortal Kombat movie 1995 versus Caden representing the Resident Evil movie from 2002. And the winner of that debate was Mortal Kombat, 9-6. So
Oh, okay. Wasn't as bad as I thought.
definitely not a blowout. There was definitely some love shown for Resident Evil. The interesting thing, there was also some just general love for the debate, period, because somebody posted an extra heart next to one of the icons. Not sure where that came
Aw.
from, but somebody
Mr.
apparently
Sly
just
Funky Monk himself.
Oh, is he the
really,
one?
he wanted to show love to both films. I guess
Thanks,
he's just a
Sal.
big fan.
We
So
appreciate it.
The but I think you for me personally, you won simply with the kicker of just reminding everyone that film introduced the laser grid that was
Yeah,
shown
dude.
yes,
that came up in Resident Evil 4, which is like was instantly an moment when you play that in Resident Evil 4, but it's also just a dope like concept. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up, and I didn't mention it to you before because that was going to be part of my assist trophy. Was the laser grid and the fact that that was actually adapted into Resident Evil 4 as well.
Yeah.
So
Which I think says a lot more about the impact of that film as opposed to Mortal Kombat's impact on Mortal Kombat.
right.
Sure. Well, I'm happy with the result. I really thought this was going to be like a 12-0 type of thing, But
Nope. You brought the heat, and a lot of people clearly agreed with you. So you did a great job.
yes, the real
All
ones
right.
now.
Well, with that, I will send it back to you, Caden, for the next segment.
Fantastic. Good job, Wes. All right, so this is a special episode of the Great Game Debate podcast wherein we will be talking about our 2021 GOTYs. And I guess I should clarify, not all of us have that much time. Most of us have kids. Most of us work 40 plus hours a week on a regular basis. I think Jonah finished less than 10 games this year,
No, I finished 10 games exactly.
Oh, okay.
3 of which were in the
So-
same series.
Just in the interest of a more interesting conversation, this isn't going to be specifically our 2021 GOTYs. It's going to be our games of the year that we played this year. So even if it didn't come out in 2021. With that disclaimer out of the way, we're just going to jump right in. As the father of the great game debate himself, Jonah, I think I'll let you have the honor. We're going to go round robin, top 5. So give us your number 5 game of the year.
So my number 5 game of the year is Little Nightmares 2.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Good pick.
It was what, our second, or was it our third
I
Game
think that
Club
was
game
our third Game Club
Yeah.
game, if I'm
of
not
this year?
mistaken.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, that game, it does like the right level of spooky. Like, it's so good. They fixed a lot of the controls from the first one. So, like, if you're walking on a beam, you're kind of like locked into that more so than you were in the first one. A lot of the like just quality of life changes were a lot better in that game, but like just the silent storytelling of that game without any dialogue or anything makes the game just that much better.
Yeah, I agree. It had the right level of kind of like tenseness and kind of it was spooky without being like overly scary. And it did lack a lot of the frustration from the first game. Although I can't walk away from talking about this game without talking about the hand hallway, because that was
Ugh.
the worst. But I agree, it's an excellent game. sure.
I think we did this as Getty when I was working at that terrible lab where I was like forced to do mandatory overtime, so I didn't have time to play the game, so I just watched like a playthrough of it at times 2 speed on YouTube. But still really enjoyed it. Wish I could have the time to play it. Should probably go back and play it. But man, I think what stands out for me a lot in this game are like the chase sequences, like the hunter at the beginning of the game and how you like frantically like load and set up the shotgun to shoot him dead, like when he's hacking through the door. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, that was so cool. Yeah. Not a game either that I really expected to get a sequel to, and
Yeah.
the fact that we got a
Yeah.
sequel and it was awesome. So really can't wait to see what they do next.
And one of the best endings to a game this year, I think, that I played.
Yeah,
Tragic.
really freaky.
It's tragic ending.
Yeah. I'm actually like one of the few that I guess I wasn't as hot on it. Like I was sort of in the 7.5 range, sort of that game. So I enjoyed it, but my biggest issue was that I didn't feel like it improved drastically from the first game. Like it still had a lot of issues, and obviously just certain I guess ideas that they had where the camera angle made it difficult to do certain platforming and stuff like that still, even though they did fix a bit from one. I also just felt like the ending had a lot more impact in one, and also like the DLC was phenomenal in one. So if Little Nightmares 2 has DLC, which kind of shouldn't, but it could, I guess it could have a character, a different a character
like
DLC.
a perspective change.
Right.
Kind
A
of like
perspective change, which is what the DLC of one did. But yeah, I enjoyed my time, but there was still a lot of frustrations with just like how it's presented and how like the jumping mechanics work and different things like that. And I also just found like the ending to be kind of unsatisfying. Not the final part, but just like the setup to it was a bit disappointing for me personally.
Fair enough. Anybody else have anything they really want to say about Little Nightmares 2?
Oh, I just love the atmosphere in those games.
Yeah.
They just have a mood to them that's, really heavy and dense. And just kind of like, I don't know. I want to play that game when it's raining outside and it's cold and it's dark and just kind of like huddled under a blanket. But it definitely has a mood to its own, and I appreciate that about it.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that like helped boost this game for just being as enjoyable is it was one of the few games that I got to stream this year. So like
Nice.
just like getting
Yeah.
to experience it with other people, I mean that always makes like, especially in like spooky games, it always makes it a little not like that much better.
That
But I do have to agree with Steven. There were points where like the camera angle kind of makes solving puzzles and some platforming in that game a little difficult, but I mean,
well,
it's still my number
y-
5.
I was trolling you so much with the hand hallway, and it is again, it's a perspective thing. Obviously, you use the tiles to know exactly where the hands are, but like that was like one of the funniest things for me, and one of the most frustrating things for you. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny when I've got you and Zach in the chat just keeping a counter of how many times I'm dying
Oh
in that
no.
game.
All right, well, I guess we'll just go clockwise, at least on my screen here. So I'll pass it along to Wes. Number 5 game of the year.
Okay, so I actually am going to, just because I had already set up my GOTY list in just 2021 GOTYs, so
Same.
mine all will be from this year. But that's just kind of how I set my list up. So
Hmm.
anyway, my number 5 is Life is Strange: True Colors.
Ooh,
Nice.
Um, are you guys familiar with Life is Strange games? Have you played them before?
I haven't
Any
I
of
played
you?
any
haven't.
of them, but
a bit of
No.
one.
I know a
Okay,
little bit about it.
Steven played one.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are very narrative heavy games where you basically are just kind of walking around a limited area, kind of observing different things. You know, it's a lot of kind of inner monologue from the character that you're
Yeah.
controlling and playing as, and what they're, you know, you'll see like a cat walking around this, you know, around the block, and you know, oh, look, it's so fuzzy, it's cute, or you know, just kind of like, and then you'll happen upon a scenario, and you get to make a choice, and your choice kind of like reflects in the rest of the story. So it's kind of similar to Telltale game in
Yeah.
a way, but this game, it was just the narrative of this game was just so well crafted that it just really, and I haven't played all the Life is Strange games. I've only played Before the Storm and part of Life is Strange 1, but none of them have kind of like engaged me on the level that this one did. The main character is just acted superbly. I mean, she was obviously um nominated for you know, her role in the Game Awards,
Yeah.
and she absolutely deserved it. I think personally, I think she should have taken it because she did a wonderful job. And the rest of the characters in the game are just so well fleshed out. You get to know them so well as you spend your time over, I think, several months or so in the small town of Haven Springs, Colorado. And it's a really emotional game. I won't spoil the story, but it's a very personal game for the character. Um, Specifically, the game is broken up into chapters. There's 5 chapters. The whole of chapter 3 in that game is like my moment of the year from any video game
Wow.
Oh,
this
really?
year. It's so cool. It's just really, really awesome. If you are into narrative driven games, I can't I can't recommend this one enough.
Yeah.
It's just really good. Oh, and as Steven and Jonas, as two people that really enjoy music, I'll say this game ties its music into the narrative so tightly. It's
Cool.
like, you know, one of the characters runs a record store, and you go into the record store, and you know, you're just flipping through albums. You go into the jukebox. You can change the music in the local bar, you know, and some of the side quests are tied to the music in the game. Just the audio direction is just superb. It just sounds so good as you're playing through it. Hell of a soundtrack.
Cool.
Really, really good stuff.
Gotta love a good soundtrack in a game.
So this is one of the where I definitely want to have like a question, because I'll preface it with my experience with both Telltale and Life is Strange is that I would kind of consider them like a 3D exploration visual novel.
Yeah,
Um, and
that's
like the
not
difference
far
between
off.
those games, which I'm not really about, compared to Edith Finch, which is like a walking sim adventure game, is the fact that the gameplay evolves and you actually start to get really engaged. Like it starts out and all you're doing is walking and reading, and I was like, okay, am I actually going to be into this game? But Edith Finch evolves in crazy ways.
Mhm.
Do you ever feel engaged in the gameplay? Is my biggest question, because I
Yes.
personally would prefer to just play, watch a movie if I'm not really doing much.
Yeah, and so again, without getting too much into spoilers, definitely in chapter 3, the gameplay changes up
Oh,
fairly
cool.
significantly for a good reason.
Oh, that's good.
But there are also some interesting mini games. There's like a whole like basically old 8-bit arcade game. I can't remember
Oh,
what it's called,
cool.
like Ghost Mine or something like that, where you're basically playing almost like a Spelunky type
Oh,
video
okay.
game. And you can play that anytime that you want. It's like in your room. You can just walk up to it and it
Very cool.
looks just like a real arcade game.
Hmm.
So you can kind of engage in that. There's a couple of puzzles where you are facing off against character like in a guessing game, and she'll give you clues, and you have to like look at audio cues to try to figure out what she's talking about. There's like a foosball part where you have to engage and try to beat somebody at a foosball game, and yeah, there's definitely parts in it that it kind of shakes things up, and it definitely keeps it engaging. It's not just you walking from place to place. That's the majority of it, but there's definitely moments in every chapter pretty much where you are doing other things, and the narrative is so engaging, I feel like, that even just walking from place to place, you want to explore thoroughly, because there's stuff that you can totally miss if you're not there's like a main objective that will move the story forward, but there's other
Yeah.
things as well. There's other people that you can engage with, and if you're just going directly to where you're supposed to go, I feel like you miss out on so much of what makes the game special,
Yeah,
because there's all this kind of side stuff going on and getting to know the people around you and what they're doing. So,
definitely. It's a very hard balance to walk, I think, with that style of game, because there are so many moments in different video games where the slow moments are amazing. Obviously, you could bring up Last of Us Part 2, where the slow moments are probably some of the best parts of that entire game.
mhm.
But yeah, a whole game of that is where I start to lose interest. I just need a little bit of gameplay to keep the carrot like in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that you'll find it in that game. Um, and the chapters aren't so long that it overstays its welcome. I feel like every chapter is like 2.5 to 3 hours long, and you're done. So I finished over the course of 5 nights, just one chapter a night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Goes down easy. All right, got Life is Strange True Colors on the board. And with that, we'll move on to myself. Okay, so my 5, like Wes, I am sticking to games I've beaten that came out this year. But I'm sure this game will come up later. But my number 5 is Metroid Dread.
Ooh.
So this my list also frustrated me because there's a bunch of games that came out this year that I want to play that I'm sure if I did play would be on this list, but I just didn't have time to get around to them. Um, and games that I have played, I just haven't finished. But anyway, a game that I have finished that came out this year is Metroid Dread, and
Heck yeah.
I know, a ton of people are just all over this game. It's a lot of people's GOTY. But I guess for me, like, I really like the game. It's a Metroid game that's done very well. It's the return of Metroid and 2D Metroid. Get at it, Mercury Steam. Love it.
Hell
But
yeah.
I guess just the reason why it's not higher on my list is just it just didn't feel like it was doing enough new for Metroid. Like, it just felt like a really competent Metroid game, like the end. And I just feel like even other indie games that came out this year or in the year before, the year before that, that are also Metroidvanias, just did the genre better than Metroid Dread did, but
Yeah.
still freaking love the game.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this game's also on my list, and
Mhm.
it's a little bit higher on my list, obviously. But I think I know you say it doesn't. It's competent. It doesn't do enough to like really set the bar higher. Where I don't know. I kind of disagree with that because I look at gameplay of other Metroid games and I feel like that parry system alone makes
so
it
good.
that much more of a better game. Because I look at like Super Metroid, and which is touted as the best Metroid, the Metroid game, right? And I feel like it looks a little too stiff, too bland without maybe the parry system. Granted, the game's like 25 years old, but like
Sure, yeah.
I think that and the locomotion in the game,
Yeah.
just how Samus moves
Yeah.
is so much better than the older 2D Metroid games. She's so much
And-
faster, more agile. It feels so much more smooth. It
Yeah.
just feels better to play.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to bring up is feel. Like, and I would say it's probably one of the best feeling Metroidvanias to date. Full stop. So many Metroidvanias are you start out very, very slow, and some Metroidvanias don't even get you any faster. Like you might have a dash and you go like frames faster, but not much faster. Like I look at Castlevania, and that my biggest issue with it is the movement speed is like so slow.
100%.
Whereas this is just like instant gratification. You're just running from the
the
get go,
entire time
and
you're just sprinting.
and you only get faster. You only get faster. It's crazy. And yeah, so I'll bring up more points, but that's the biggest thing where you say like it didn't innovate, but I think it did take a lot of stuff up to the next level, and like possibly people don't know how to balance like a game that's running at that fast of a frame, but this game is balanced really well. Yeah. Oh god. Like it's funny when people say like, "Oh, I can't wait for like a really good like Pokemon game, the Pokemon game of my dreams." Like, Sonic fans have been waiting for that a lot longer than Pokemon fans.
I think the closest it got was Sonic Mania, correct? Like
Mania is a good game. Mania is a really really good game. I would also like to say about Dread. I mean, I don't think any, except for maybe, well, I haven't played all the primes, so I can't speak to those. But out of any of the 2D Metroid games, I feel like this game just kind of best personifies Samus as a character. And, you know, you really just kind of finally get to see just what a cool badass she is, just with her actions and her movements. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but
can we
what she
like? But
does
that's the
have is
thing.
just
That
really
one
great.
bit of dialogue that she has was somehow insanely emotional.
Yeah.
It was like really hurt me, and it was like, oh my god, and it's like in a different language, and I'm just like, oh my god, that was something. That was really cool.
You know,
cold-hearted, cold steel.
So what's this point? You know, like graphically, this for me personally, this game didn't do a lot for me. It's just like Switch graphics, whatever. Lots of great environments. Can you guys hear my cat?
Oh, is that your cat?
She's just at the bottom of the stairs, just.
I thought that was Steven's kids in the background.
Anyway, but I guess my point is like I still think I would prefer an actual 2D Metroid, like with like 2D art, not 2.5 with 3D models. But to Wes's point, like I think they only would have been able to push Samus's like personification and like her body language and stuff with 3D environments and 3D models for those cutscenes, because that's really where you get her badassedness, you know.
Yeah, and also it's really cool, like with the parries on bosses and stuff like that. They would use the background elements in like the cut scenes where you'd be fighting and stuff, and yeah, really cool. And also, just this. I hope more people do this evolution of cutscene fighting where it's not QTEs, but it's like you have done a thing and now you're in a cutscene, but you can still fight in the cutscene. That's such a great idea.
And you're still using like the inputs you would use to do the same thing outside of the
yeah.
Because
you can do either shots that you could do. It's
sick.
So clever.
And all the cues you get in the cutscene for how to fight the boss.
Yeah.
That was really well done.
Intro cut in the intros of the fights. Yeah,
right.
You see again how badass like Samus is. Like just like everyone. I'm sure everyone knows like one of the bosses that's in the game because they're pretty eponymous. Which is Kraid. Spoilers. But it just rolls in and just shoots a missile right in his face, just because it's like, you again.
Just thinking about this now that we're talking about it, like looking at my list, I do think that like some of the most memorable boss fights that I've played in video games this year are in Metroid Dread, like especially like the
Pushed
final
us.
boss. Yeah.
Yeah, they really pushed back.
I mean, the nice thing about the bosses in this game is like you come up against it and you're like, this is impossible. I don't know how to do it. And then you just beat your head against that boss and you're like, oh, I got you down. Now I can beat you this entire fight without taking any damage because I've learned how you fight. It's super satisfying.
Yeah, and it's a little thing, and I just want to call it out. I think most people know about it now, but just the extra, like, secret ways that you can beat bosses.
Yeah.
Oh, with the sequence breaking,
It's so good.
Yeah, and
even the intentional ones.
The devs just acknowledge it in giving you like new cutscenes that new finishers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's just
awesome.
Really cool.
Real dope.
Cool. Yeah, well, this game definitely cannot wait to see what Mercury Steam does next with Metroid because I think there's like 100% chance that they're making another Metroid. So I'll pass along to Steven. What's your number 5 game of the year?
So my number 5 is really a strange one because it technically came out this year but didn't, which at the moment, and this is tentative, by the end of the year my list might have changed. I half think that Halo Infinite is going to be in this spot of the list, personally, because it's probably going to be my second favorite Halo game under Reach, simply because Reach still at the moment has a better story than Halo Infinite, but like the gameplay is just insanely solid. Like you literally can't knock the gameplay of Halo Infinite. It's crazy. For me, who doesn't really like shooters, grapple hooking around, especially in fights, using a grapple hook to like escape is like really cool. Like so that's like just like such a cool idea that was implemented so well. It doesn't feel like it breaks the game because it's like the firefights are still intense, but just like gives you just more options, which is just like Metroid Dread, like more options as you get more abilities. But yeah, but at the moment, because I haven't finished it, I don't want to. I'm not going to lock in Halo until I finish it. So at the moment, it's actually Skyward Sword. And so it's interesting because if I put it into a different list of all the games I've beaten, Skyward Sword's a bit probably lower. Like my feelings about the game have changed a little bit. Like I don't think of it as fondly, and I actually think of something like that's lower on my list, like Bowser's Fury, a lot more fondly. But I think still, like the core experience I had with Skyward Sword was still really great. So I don't think we really need to talk that much about it. We already did the pitch and stuff on it, so we'll quickly go on to the next sort of round. But yeah, so at the moment, Skyward Sword with a possible Halo Infinite in my 5th place is probably where I'm at.
Cool. I do just want to ask, like, how much did you like the game originally, and then like did the remake like make you like it more?
I think I said in the pitch, I bought it, but like I was just mashing out Skyrim, so I just didn't get around to it. And then it was just like it just got to that point where everyone sort of got to with the Wii, where they just went back after playing HD games and people started getting LCD TVs and shit like that, and just realizing, I don't really want to go back to this. And obviously, if you've it's funny, the Wii looks a lot better if you are using a CRT TV as opposed to an LCD, because it's stretching it out and this just starts looking super muddy and you can barely recognize anything. So that's just the point where I was like, I just don't think I can play this.
So was this really like your first playthrough in earnest of the game?
I think I might have I didn't even beat the first boss. I got to the first dungeon the first time, and that was about all I played.
Well, that even like speaks more highly that this is essentially like your first experience with the game, so you're almost playing like a new game. And
that's exactly
you still
right.
liked it
and
a
like
lot, so.
It's very hard for me to score a Zelda game like under a 9, and it's probably the only one that I probably would score.
It's like the Dark Souls 2, so it's like it's still a good game.
So I scored it at a 9 at when I finished it. So I was very high on it at the finish. And then sort of when I'm looking back at it, I'm sort of like more 8.9, maybe even 8.8 sort of range.
The
But like
granularity.
just to make you understand that, like, okay, it's like because 9 is into like, yeah, that's your top echelon. That's like this is the
I
best
would love to see you write a
1,000 games.
document of like the
Yeah.
metrics for the 0.9 and the
Oh, yeah.
0.8 stuff.
Well,
Just going
again,
off of why couldn't you just call it like an 89 since it's already a 100-point like rating system in your book?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. 'Cause I'm not Metacritic, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, that'll be it for our 5s. It's on to the 4s. Jonah,
All right.
4 top game.
So my number 4, I kind of want to switch these games. Nah, I'll keep it. I'll keep it how I've got it.
On the fly.
My number 4 game is the only game that I've got on here that came out last year, and that is Spider-Man Miles Morales. That game is like it's just so good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not much of like a hip hop guy, but you know, in every rendition of Miles Morales that's come out in like media recently, they've just done hip hop super well. I mean, seeing Miles Morales as a character is just like super cool. Watching watching him like just be fresh and new and learn how to be Spider-Man, especially in this game, is super cool. Him realizing his powers and watching his like the little bits of animation that he's got where he's still like new to swinging, but he's feeling confident in himself.
Yeah.
So he'll swing.
Like flailing about a little
Yeah, he'll
bit while he,
swing
like,
and he's
hits
like,
the
"Yeah, I
feet.
got this." He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh wait, I'm falling now," and he's starting to like flail a little bit. It's super fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think my favorite part about this game is it is an open world game and there's a lot to do, but it's not too much to do. Whereas a lot of like open world games, it's like, oh, you've got 63 things in like a square inch of the map, and it's like I don't want that much to do. Like, you can 100% the map in maybe 15 hours.
Nice.
Like, it's super it's super fast, and like that's like 100% the map and complete the story of the game. Like, it's the perfect size for an open world game.
I don't have obviously a PS5 yet, so I haven't played it because I want to play it on
Same.
PS5. My biggest question is the worst part of Spider-Man 2018 was the whoever the Instagram radio host person was, live streamer host that would just pretty much give you the Batman what do they call them, those challenges, like whatever you call them,
like the
Predator
Riddler
challenges
trophies?
and stuff. No, not the Riddler trophies, like the challenges, like timed, like go beat this many guys,
right? Yeah,
and go do this, that, and the other, do this race and all that sort of stuff. They were just like the worst. And like to get the platinum, you had to do a fair amount of them. You'd actually have to do them all to get the platinum. But anyway, they were just the worst. How are they still present, or is it just collectibles and engaging gameplay? That's the only question I have.
So they do have collectibles, and like the collectibles like dive deeper into like Miles' story, but most of the most of those challenges that you're talking about are set up by Peter, and he's like, "Oh, I've got this new hologram technology." And the cool thing about playing it on the PS5 is like you have to like log into it, and you can feel like Miles tapping on like the back of the controller when you're playing it on the PS5. It's pretty cool. But yeah, all of it's all just like training things that are set up by Peter for Miles to like get better.
They kind of make more sense story-wise, canonically, than the Spider-Man ones.
And I would say that they're harder than the ones in the base Spider-Man to get the gold on, because you're rated like bronze, silver, gold. But you don't need to get gold on any of them to do the platinum. I think at most you have to get like silver on everything or something like that. And that's not that tough. So.
And the nice thing about it is you get it done, and it just unlocks a new ability for you. You want to do it.
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to ask, because like I love that idea, like they're showing that, you know, he's fledgling and stuff, so he's still making mistakes. Is that just a visual gag, or is it actually gameplay? Where, like, you know, what is it? Freaking Smash Bros. Brawl had tripping. Is it like, does it affect gameplay, or is it just a visual gag?
it's more of like a narrative thing. So like you'll
Yep.
obviously you'll see him like make mistakes throughout like the story because he's new to being Spider-Man, but um I think if you actually get hit, he might be like, "Oh," and kind of realize that he slipped up there, but I don't know. I played it early in the year, so like
Yeah.
it's
But it
kind of
doesn't
fuzzy.
like. Does it affect gameplay? As in,
No.
like when you're having a fight, you won't make
No,
any
if
mistakes.
if
It's just
you're
when you're swinging and stuff.
it's just when you're swinging,
Yeah.
if you're perfect in combat, you're perfect, but like if you mess
Yeah.
up, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, "Oh, I messed up."
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can crash in the game. You can like which Peter can't do. Like he'll like
Yeah.
roll out of it, but Miles
Yeah.
will actually like take the fall and just like oh, like land on his back or something and like pick himself up, dust himself off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
Um,
won't take damage. It'll just
No,
be
there's
no,
no
it's
fall
no,
it's a
it
damage.
doesn't
yeah. Yeah.
really
Cool.
damage you. The one thing I really like about that game well, there's a lot of things I like about that game over base Spider-Man. I really love them both. Is the addition of Miles's specific superhero powers, his Venom
Yeah.
powers, and his cloaking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those really add a lot to the repertoire of the
Makes
combat.
it
I
feel
feel like,
unique.
Mhm.
yeah,
It was
and I
really sorry. I was just gonna say it was really funny. I was reading Venom by Donny Cates last year. And it's really funny when he meets Miles Morales and he like explains that his powers are like named after Venom. And it's just like that is such a weird like thing. But yeah,
Oh,
anyway.
is that
Just
true?
a complete aside.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's cool. Jonah, I assume you played the 2018 Spider-Man. Did that come out in 2018 or am I
Yeah.
yeah,
crazy?
2018, yeah.
Did you like Miles more than that game?
Um, I like I think Miles is more of an interesting character than Peter personally.
Yeah.
But yes, I like. I mean, they do more with the gameplay. They do more with the combat. They're just because he does have powers. In Spider-Man 2018, if you get spotted, it's just okay. You got to fight your way out. Whereas in Miles, you get spotted, you can go around a corner, cloak, and then zip up to the ceiling, and then you're back in stealth if you want to be back in stealth. I know some people just don't like stealth in games, which is cool because this game just gives you the option to go in guns blazing if you want to. So yeah.
Sorry, I just had one more thing that just came to mind. Is one of the biggest, I guess, other semi letdowns of Spider-Man 2018 was its rogues gallery was good, but its boss battles were pretty, hit and miss. There was a couple good
Agreed.
ones, but most of them were pretty average at best. How were the boss battles and how was the rogues gallery? Like, because obviously not many people probably know Miles Morales' rogues gallery. Was it all brand new faces that you've never seen, or did they just bring in more legacy Spider-Man villains?
I can't. I I I know they brought in new characters. Wes, you might have to help me out with this because I'm
Oh,
blanking.
yeah. So if you've if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, then you'll definitely know who one of the main villains is.
Mm.
They do reintroduce Rhino at the beginning of the game. He's got a prominent role kind of at the start of the game. And then they have a brand new villain that they
Oh,
created,
that's
I
right.
believe, just for
Mhm.
Miles in his
Cool.
campaign. That's kind of the central antagonist.
Yeah, that character has some interesting backstory to it too.
So it's a lot more narrow in terms of the focus of the villains, I would say, than Spider-Man 2018.
Yeah.
But it's a lot smaller game too. So.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Harder
I wouldn't
package.
have even mind if they kicked out a couple of the villains in Spider-Man 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
they
But they
do a
did
good
do
job.
the Sinister Six and stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll move right along to Wes. Your number 4 game.
Okay, my number 4 game is Death's Door.
Hey.
And I know that we have kind of, I guess, conflicting loves in this group about that game. Kate, I know you really enjoyed that game.
Oh yeah.
Steven, I know you haven't been having as much fun with it. And John, I know you started it.
So I started it on my PC because Caden had it, and
Oh, right.
lets me share his library. So I started it, but because my PC doesn't really allow me to play games, I had to drop it, not by choice. I wanted to continue playing. So I picked it back up on my Switch once it finally came out on Switch, and I've been having a blast with it. So
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that you've been enjoying it. I really, really love this game. this game kind of came out of nowhere for me. Like I didn't know anything about it until the Devolver showcase from E3. And then it released like 2 weeks later or something like that, right at the beginning of July, I think. And I played through it right at the beginning, and I couldn't put it down. I absolutely, it's one of those games, at least for me, where sometimes you pick up a game and it's just so smooth and it just feels so good to play that it's almost I don't know how to explain it really well, but it just like
You're
it's
in the
almost like
zone.
it's almost like it's like an extension of your body or something, playing the game.
Be
And
the
it's
crow.
and it was just like effortless to continue to play that game. I didn't have to I didn't feel forced. I was constantly engaged. I constantly just enjoyed my time. It just felt like a really, really smooth experience for me. I love the soundtrack in the game. The combat is not overly complex, but it's fast enough and engaging enough that I never got bored with it. I really enjoyed the world is very curated. It's not a huge, huge world that you're exploring. But even so, I really enjoyed kind of eking out all the secrets that the game had. It's got a pretty nice little post game as well if you want to continue and continue to look for more secrets. The soundtrack is probably my soundtrack of the year. I just love that whole
Yeah, man.
score. I downloaded it on my phone. I've been listening to it at work and stuff just because it's pretty. It's just a really pretty chill soundtrack. It's got a lot of like woodwinds and flutes and stuff like that and piano, and it's just really kind of light and airy, and I really appreciate that about it. And I liked the characters. I felt they were all really kind of charming. I liked what they did with the story, and I don't know. It was another one of those games where like I don't feel like it's doing anything new, but I feel like it's just a really well put together game, and I just really had a good time playing it. And I love the boss battles. I liked fighting the second to last boss in particular. The spoiler alert if you don't want to know anything about Death's Door right now. But there's a boss fight against the old crow at the end,
Yeah.
and he's hookshotting around and you
Mm.
have to dodge around, and I thought that was really cool.
Ice physics.
Yeah. So anyway, I really love that game. And I know a lot of other people do. It didn't hit for everybody, but for me it was great.
For me, this game is like it's a interesting just look, I guess, at like how much like character design can do. Like, because when you really think about the characters in this game and like the stories behind most of the characters, like there isn't actually a lot there, but like they're so charming and like the like pothead, he literally just he's been cursed to have a pot for a head. The sailor who is he's a corpse who's being controlled by an octopus pretending that he's like puppeteering a dead human to like
That is
try and
also selling you octopus, like
yeah.
miso. Like
That's awesome.
what?
And then
I love when you first meet Pothead and he like takes off the pot lid and then he like bows to you and a little bit of soup falls out of his head. It's so
yeah.
funny.
I think he feeds you some soup later on, doesn't he? He's
Yeah.
like, "Here, sit with me at the campfire. I'll give you some soup."
And then what's the name of the guy with the Steadhone, right? He's
Oh
got
yeah,
Oh
he's got a
yeah, the gravedigger.
headstone for a
yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Steadhone, what a name. But yeah, it's funny, like one of the major criticisms I have heard about this game that you touched on, Wes, is like there's just not a lot to the combat, but like I don't think every game needs that, It's like not every game needs like a dial the combo system and a skill tree. I mean, you look back at like, A Link to the Past or any of the 2D Zeldas, it's like it's not any more complex than those games, but
Yeah. For me it was, it has a really nice dodge roll.
Mm-hmm.
It has your long range attack. To use your long range or build your long range attack back up, you have to use your
yeah.
melee. So if you want to do any long range, you have to use your melee as well. And so for me, that's a really good balance for, um, you know, keeping the combat interesting. I really liked the. I ended up using the fireball for most of the game because
Yeah.
it does kind of like burn damage over
Mhm.
time, and you can find upgrades for pretty much all of your spells, all of your long range
Yeah.
stuff. You get a couple of new weapons, and you get your typical Zelda, you know, hearts basically if you find the
Yeah.
upgrades to give you a little bit more life and a little bit more magic and everything. And yeah, it was just a really good, short but sweet experience, I felt.
I do
So
like that most of the ranged attacks that enemies throw at you, you can just smack them right back. And if
Yeah.
you
oh
if you
yeah.
do a heavy
Yeah.
attack on it, it hits them twice as hard going back. So
Mhm.
I like that mechanic in it too.
I did find myself changing between weapons for normal encounters. I don't know if you got it yet, Jonah, but I used the hammer because it's just a lot of bang for your buck and has
Mhm.
like a AoE. But for boss fights, I like switched to the dual daggers because
I
they're just so
really
much
like
Oh
faster.
the
yeah.
dual
Yeah.
daggers because they're so fast.
I think a Hyper Light Drifter does that too. It's this like mechanic where it's like your melee attacks build up your ranged attacks
Mhm.
ammo, and that back and forth is just really satisfying
Yeah.
to me. But
If you main the dual daggers, would you name yourself Eileen?
I guess you would. I lead the crow
I don't
for
get that
Bloodborne
reference.
fans out
Oh,
there.
okay.
It's a Bloodborne reference.
She's dressed as a crow and fights with dual daggers.
Okay.
So there you go.
Um,
Yeah. And it's just really cool to see the developer come back because they did Titan Souls like
Oh,
years ago,
that
which
game is
I
so
don't think
cool.
a lot of people play. But yeah, I love Titan Souls. That game is so satisfying. But yeah, just to see them come back in such a big way. So just another indie. Cannot wait to see what they do next. They just keep getting better and better with
Mhm.
every game.
yeah.
So yeah.
I I have a predisposition to dislike
Hmm.
isometric games, so
Right.
that's like where I start. Unfortunately, and like I tried my best to really enjoy this game, but it had so many frustrating things for someone that doesn't like isometric games. Obviously, no camera control, um, having a health system and a gameplay ideology that is a zero hit gameplay ideology, where it wants you to make zero mistakes because it doesn't have much health in the game at all. Like you only can have 6 health chunks maximum, and you start out with 4.
Hmm.
So just beating bosses just doesn't feel rewarding in a meaningful way because the currency system is also a little bit stunted.
Hmm.
And yeah, so for me, the biggest gripe was like whenever I'm playing an isometric game, I never feel like I think I'm going on like my fingers a 45-degree angle, but if it's a 40
Right.
degree
Yeah.
angle, then I miss my shot or I miss my sword swing or I do a roll and I fall into a pit, and falling into a pit costs a health chunk that you
Hmm.
can't readily get back um in a timely fashion. You either have to leave the area and come back and respawn all the enemies and do it again. Like the game has a no hit mentality, and that was like where I really fell off. Like I enjoyed the boss fights, like boss fight 2 and 3 were my favorites. Like the frog boss is like absolutely awesome,
Yeah.
great Zelda style boss. It was probably the only one that is a sort of feels like a Zelda style boss where it's like you wait, you do the thing, you hit the weak
Right.
point
Yeah.
thing, and that's where that was where I really clicked, and I loved his opening scroll. Like he has this massive splash screen of all of his
His
titles, which was
titles.
just
Yeah.
awesome, like very Borderlands like esque. And yeah, and the characters, yeah, were really cool. Like as I said earlier on, the drunken sailor, or whatever it's called, is awesome but horrifying. But yeah, it just unfortunately it just didn't click with me on most levels, and I really didn't enjoy the final boss. Just it was very long, drawn out affair, and the charging bulls were bull. So
Sure.
I
Have you
do
played?
I do agree with Steven on the health. I do wish that They don't necessarily need to give you a full bar of health, but like if they could segment it where you're picking up like small health chunks after you beat like
Sure, like
some
some enemies
enemies,
would do like half a heart of damage or a quarter of a heart of
or
damage type of thing.
not even that, just like picking up health. So say you kill a
Yeah.
couple of grunts and I
Mhm.
see what you're saying. Yeah, they give you just like a portion
Yeah.
of that bar until it's full. I think that would have been better because I understand that you're supposed to pick up the seeds and plant the pot, but when you give me a limited resource on like
You
what I
hoard
can
it,
use to
yeah.
get health, I'm not gonna want to
Yeah.
use it.
I mean, in that
That's the
way, it's
thing.
like even more punishing than like Dark Souls. You don't even
Yeah.
have Estus flasks,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
the boss fights, and unlike Metro, which I will also bring up later, my only gripe about Metro, or I can bring it up now, but is the damage that the bosses deal, and feeling that like health like is kind of moot as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you can get it back in boss fights in Metro
Mhm.
Dread compared to Death's Door. Again, I'm like, especially when you add, if you've got ads in a boss fight, that means that they're meant to give you health. That's just like video game logic, is like that the ads will give you health or they'll give you ammo, or whatever is usually what happens in boss fights.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a few things in my brain just didn't click with that game. But like in the the 10 games that I beat this year that were from 2021, it came in number 9, just above Little Nightmares 2, but it is still like still a solid game. I gave it a 7.6. It's still like a solid game. Not a bad game in any way. It's just, if I liked isometric games, I'd like it more.
Yeah. I think it's a fair point. Like, I don't think this game would be any less of a game if literally enemies like dropped hearts, because I don't think
Yeah.
where this game's identity is its difficulty, like Dark Souls or something. I think it's more about its like
Yeah.
quirkiness and the world design and like the exploration and
I
the
think with
like
that
secret
one,
hunting.
I could give it. I would literally probably give it an 8.5 if it just had some health back. I'm not joking. That's how much it affected my enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because it was this zero hit mentality.
Yeah.
So with
Yeah, I feel
without
like-
that aspect, is it at what, like a 6.9 or?
I said it. I said a 7.6. That's
Oh.
what my score was.
Okay.
I feel like it's trying to reward you in exploration by finding the seeds. Because that's
Yeah.
a lot of what you are rewarded with as you are pushing to explore. And
But there's not that you don't have a seed pot in a boss fight.
no, I understand that. I'm
No.
just saying, like, I feel like that's kind of what maybe what the devs were thinking, like, okay, like if we reward them with kind of health points throughout the levels, and I never had a problem. Obviously, I died in the boss fights because I ran out of health, but I never had a problem usually in the exploration. I never felt like I'm hurting for seeds, because I
No.
was
I had
always kind of like pushing and exploring and
I had about 17 seeds at the end of the game, and all I wanted to do was eat one during the boss fight.
yeah.
Just,
And you're
just let me
and you're
eat a seed.
and you're technically part of the end game is you're supposed to plant all the seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
there's like a
there you go.
secret for it.
yeah.
I guess one gripe I do have with the seed pots is like I feel like I literally almost never use them because they're only kind of useful when you're backtracking for exploration, but when you're pressing forward through a new area,
Yeah.
you're always leaving them behind, so they're never useful,
Yeah.
Unless you're like
Unless
low
you
on health
just get
coming
to a
into
pot, yeah.
a new section, yeah, right.
Yeah. Because sometimes they'd have a seed pot right next to a door, and it's like, if I use the door, I get full health. Like,
Yeah.
there's no point in me wasting a seed.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe some kind of overhaul of the health system would be welcome, but yeah, overall just a fantastic game,
Mhm.
It's like a nitpick for me.
Oh,
but,
sorry. The only other
yeah.
gripe, and it's not explained like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, is that it's a crow, and he doesn't, no glide, no fly.
Yeah, there's no gliding ability.
Uses a hook shot instead. Like, I
Yeah.
understand you can say,
Like
oh,
it
he's got a
doesn't
weapon.
matter that he's a crow, really.
He's got a weapon on his back. Yeah, that's it. The crow is like, other than it, crows represent death.
Yeah.
That's the only, like, it's just a visual representation. It has nothing to do with the actual character. Because like, I'm like, surely I'm gonna glide at some point.
Right.
Just not.
Yeah, I guess
Play
I
a
could
short.
just
You have to play a short hike for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. Short hike is so good. Like, oh, cozy.
Cool.
Moving on.
Well, My number 4 is Death's Door, so I
Oh,
guess we could
nice.
just move right
Oh,
along.
yeah.
Yay!
Yeah,
Just love that game.
That's-
Man, it
Wait, I have
scratched.
like another 10 minutes to talk about it. So
Yeah, I mean, if you have any points, this is my time. So I will just say, like, I just love this kind of like Zelda-esque like exploration style, like this game, and like Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, Hyper Light Drifter, and these games are just really nailing it. I do think probably for me, I slightly prefer Hyper Light Drifter to Death's Door, but they're both just like so
I
good.
I finished Death's Door and I wanted more of that
Oh,
style of
okay.
game, and I hadn't really dug that far into Hyper Light Drifter, so I
Mhm.
went straight from that into Hyper Light Drifter, and it was amazing.
Awesome. Did you beat it?
I did.
Awesome. Okay, we're
Yeah.
just gonna have to talk about that later.
I've got one point of praise I want to dish out to Death's Door because it's something I absolutely dislike um about sorry, Jonah's just thrown me off because you just sent a message that's just thrown me off. That I actually dislike about the old God of War games is the fact that the fixed camera, they would hide secrets next to where you could possibly see, whereas like in Death's Door it's really cool that like you'll go around a corner and then the perspective flips and it's like, hey, a secret. Like that's cool and rewarding. I really like that.
Cool. All right, well, we'll just move right along, and Steven, you're number 4.
Ooh. What game was it? And I hope it's a really good one. And I think it is. Awesome. The one game I want to talk about so much because I just recently played it is The Forgotten City. My God, this
Nice.
game has hit me so insanely hard. You boot up this game. Okay, this started out as a Skyrim mod. I'm going to go through this really quickly, and then they built it up and they remade it. It still very much looks like a Skyrim mod. Character models are a bit out of place. The water textures are hilariously bad. Like there's a lot of jank, but the architecture of this city is gorgeous. Like the little tiny city that exists is absolutely pretty stunning to look at for something that is a mod. It starts out as just this visual novel thing, like Life is Strange, and I'm like, okay, this could be interesting, and like figuring out this puzzle is going to be interesting because the main crux of the game is the golden rule. If anyone commits a sin, everyone dies. Pretty much is the idea, and so you just keep going through time loops, trying to work out who's going to commit the sin and stopping that from happening, so that you can escape because you're trapped. So how that evolves from just talking to people and learning who's a scumbag and who's good and what is a sin is just so cool as you take through layer and layer and layer, and it just builds and builds, and then gameplay changes as you do more things, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. That's all I want to say about the game. It's incredibly short. I reckon you could get an ending in about 2 hours if you know if you have that like analytical mind, that logical mind, and if you just run through it and keep like talking and stuff, the game just gives you more and more every time. And the best thing is it doesn't waste your time when you do a time loop. You talk to someone after a time loop and it's like it gives you more options. It's like you can tell that person to go run errands for you so that you don't have to do those errands again. It just saves your time. You do something once, you pretty much don't have to do it again because you can get someone else to do it for you. It's just a phenomenal design.
Yeah, just to give my word of support. I've been playing the game recently. I haven't finished it, but I feel like if I had finished it, I'd probably flick Metroid Dread off the end of my list and put Forgotten City at number 5. It's really good. Yeah. So,
and it's the highest. Sorry,
no, you're good.
It's the highest rated game I would give for something that looks that lacks so much polish. Like all it needs is polish, and it would be phenomenal. It's very stilted. Like the dialogue. Every time you talk to someone, they have a canned animation, and so like you'll be looking right at someone, you do it, and they have to turn and then look at you. It's so weird, but it adds to the weird janky charm. But as a like it's a freaking 9 out of 10. Like no joke. It is.
I think the character
Not a
models
9.1 out of
animations.
10. It's not.
Not just a 9.
I think the character models and animations like cross that line of being bad to being so bad it's good.
Oh, it's like The Room.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I'm gonna download this game right after we're done.
It's so good.
Okay.
It's so good.
My plan.
Cool. So that wraps up our 4. So on to our 3s. Jonah, your number 3 game of the year.
Metroid Dread, baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Woo!
So
Metroid
we
Dread.
can just go straight to Wes.
My number 3, Metroid Dread.
Woo!
Wow.
Lightning round.
My number 3 is Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh, okay.
Damn, I just love me some Monster Hunter, baby. This game's kind of like in the same boat as Metroid Dread for me, where it's just kind of like I feel like earlier games in the series are just better. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game, you know?
Yeah.
Like, really my problem with this game, and this is really a me problem. Like, I just am a glutton for punishment, I guess, you know, like a true masochist. Like, I just want to be hurt. And this game adds so many quality of life features and new movement mechanics that it almost trivializes the combat. Like, honestly, like even only 2 people playing multiplayer could pick the bow guns and just stand like 30 feet away from the monster on opposite sides of it and just shoot it till it's dead and not have any problem with any monster the whole game. Like this
So
is
wait.
Because you can't pull aggro? Is that what you're saying?
I play bowgun. I don't know what you're trying to say.
I'm just saying you're the smartest person. No, you can pull aggro, Steven. I'm just saying like it's so easy for it's like, oh, the monster's coming at me now. Let me just wire bug and zip around. It can't touch me while the other person keeps shooting it, and then it goes for them, and then you switch places. But for anyone who's ever been interested in Monster Hunter and has been intimidated by it, like this is the game to jump in on. It's like so easy to get into. It's not very complicated with like the onboarding, and it's just a good time. So I really can't. Maybe people disagree with me compared to other monsters.
My one experience with Monster Hunter Rise was playing with Hunter and Caden
and
Zach. So that was just
pure chaos.
Extremely jolly experience, and like incredibly too. Like everyone like the Nintendo online infrastructure, and it is truly bad. But I was handheld on my couch, and it ran buttery smooth. It was so good.
Nintendo did roll out brand new servers this year that I think are the first time they've had new servers in like 9 years or something, and this was the first game that used them. And the online is just flawless, and it's really, I mean, Capcom's just knocking it out of the park with the RE engine. Like the way this game runs, how smooth and stable it is on the Switch is just really a technical marvel. Yeah. But yeah, I just had a ton of fun with this game. My only real gripe with this game is just it's a little too easy, and I just wish there was more. And the expansion's coming out next summer, so there will be more. And I'll be playing it on my PC with better graphics than on Switch, but it's still not going to look as good as Monster Hunter World because it was originally a Switch game. But I'm still going to enjoy it.
Hey, Caden, all I have to say about the difficulty of this game is you just need to get bad.
Yeah, exactly. I just need to no armor, no sidekick, like solo only. Let's go. Yeah.
Just do a new weapon, man. Just try a new weapon.
I think when I play on PC, I am gonna like do no sidekick and maybe no armor because like it's
and
really
hunting horn.
Easy. Yeah. Well, hunting horn, they overtuned it in this game.
But
they
you
like
have
made
to learn
it, like,
how
the
to
best
play
weapon.
it.
Yeah. The cool thing about what Capcom proved is how scalable the RE engine is, and so like the cool thing is with the PC port, like if they just add like more into like speed tree and foliage and stuff, it could look drastically different, like depending on how much effort they put into it. Will they do that? Is the question. Yeah.
Cool. Well, just pass it right along to Steven, your number 3 game.
Number 3 game is most people's number 1, which is It Takes Two. It was a phenomenal experience. It has absolutely crazy gameplay that keeps on changing and changing. My only gripes with it, the only reason it's not like in my number 2 spot or my number 1 spot, is I didn't have one like phenomenal like experience. Like there were a few things, obviously elephant scene, the baboon fight is really good too, the space chimp or whatever it is, space monkey fight was amazing. It just like, and the real world scenes were a little bit weird, uncanny valley, but
Yeah.
it just it had, and that's I'm saying weird things about one of the greatest games of the year. Like, I also played with my son, 5 years old at the time, so that was a bit of a struggle sometimes to make sure that he's on board. And but we were able to get through all the boss fights. Like, it was just like, okay, if you die, just make sure that, like, I don't die, then vice versa. If I die, then you make sure you just stay out of danger and don't die. And then that's the cool thing about that game, is that it has this respawn system where, as long as both of you aren't dead at the same time, that you can keep going. But yeah, it just, for me, the only reason it just didn't crack it, and I rated it at the exact same score as Psychonauts 2, which is a bit of a giveaway, but it just the iconography of the scenes, because obviously everything's real world, just bigger. It's just a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids version. Just, yeah, it didn't quite just blow me away, and some of the mini games just weren't that fun, but had so much stuff. It actually, like, I think I said to Wes, it just felt like it could end soon. Like, it just kept on going, kept on changing, and kept on doing it. And obviously there's lots of references to, like, Mario and stuff like that. Like, there's a really cool bit right near the end that's a massive Mario Kart reference. And yeah, very, very, very cool game. There's not much you can say bad about that game. Like, you're gonna have a good time if you can find someone else to play it with you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I have really strong feelings about that game. The fact that it's just changing up what it's doing every 15 to 20 minutes consistently, and
Yeah.
constantly putting you into, and it's not like, oh, I'm doing this and then I'm doing that, but then I'm coming back to this again. It's like, no, you almost never do the exact same thing twice. 1 minute you're, going down the river on a raft, like almost like one of those fan boats or something. And then you're ice skating, and then the game flips perspective, and it's a side scroller, and then it flips perspective again, and then it's doing something completely different. And I played it with Dash, and we both just, like, every time it would change to something, we were like, "Is it wants us to do this? Are you kidding me? This is amazing. This is awesome!" And everything is there's nothing about it that's overly complex. It's all something that, anybody that has any kind of relative skill at games can pick up and play. The shooting's not that complicated. The platforming is really, it's a kind of a gentle game
Intuitive.
in terms of,
Yeah.
it's very intuitive. It feels good. Everything you're doing feels really good. It's fun. It's bright. It's quirky. I wouldn't say that the story is necessarily like the best story ever. Um, but I did like the characters, and I thought it was charming and quirky, and I had a phenomenal time with it.
The one thing I'd say is, probably for me, maybe it just felt like it peaked early with the hammer and the nails. Like, that is phenomenal gameplay design. Absolute, and I don't know if anything else hit that, like, phenomenal level. Like, the goo and the explosions was kind of cool, but, like, it just wasn't anywhere near as engaging as the hammer and the nails was. Just, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that was definitely a good section.
Well, I agree. Which I haven't finished this game, but I've played a lot of it.
I
and
haven't
give it back
finished
to
it
my
either.
buddy. Yeah. Cool. So that's our threes. So on to the twos. Jonah, your number 2 game.
All right. So my number 2 is kind of weird.
Oh,
It's Hitman 3.
Nice.
okay.
Why is that
2
weird?
and 1.
Oh, because it's all one game, sort of.
Yeah.
I get what you mean.
So I mean, we played Hitman 1. That was our first Game Club game this year, correct?
No, the first one we did was
Last
Last
Campfire.
Last
Yeah,
Campfire.
and then
Yeah.
Hitman 2 was, or Hitman 1 was the second one. But yeah, we played Hitman 1. I picked it up on my birthday and I beat it in one day. It was like super fun.
Wow.
And then I picked up 2 and 3 later on in the year, and I just blew right through them in like a week. And the the sandbox of that game, like just being able to explore all of the different levels that are like surprisingly big and like in depth, and like all the different things you can do, all the secrets you can find. Like you can get in a suit of armor and you can't move or stealth or anything because you're in a suit of armor, so you just have to like stand there like you're just an empty suit of armor, and then someone will walk up to you and you just like cut them down with the sword you've got. It's super cool. But yeah, Hitman 3. I'll focus on Hitman 3. I'll give you like the first level. You're like skydiving onto that giant tower in Dubai, and you have to infiltrate and just kill rich corrupted dudes. That's the first level, and like you can disguise yourself as one of the guys' new security team, and he wants you to prove yourself. So he takes you like outside, and he's got like swinging targets. He's like, throw these knives at the targets. You're like, okay, so you're giving me a weapon now, but you don't use the weapon to kill him. You do the targets, and he's like, huh, that's really good. And he walks over to the edge, and then he's like, come have a drink with me. And he tells the other security guy to leave, and you just kick him off the edge of the tower. So, I mean, like, the game's just super creative, and there's so many different things you can do in it. It's really fun.
The comedy is so well handled in those games. Like I've only played one so far, but like there were so many hilarious moments and special kills. Kind of, I remember Assassin's Creed Syndicate had like custom sort of special kills and stuff, but like this one has so many more. Everyone talks that has played Hitman 3 always talks about one particular level, and I don't know if you can talk about it without spoiling it, but there's like possibly a whodunit or a mystery level, or there's some level where you do like a case or something. I don't exactly understand it because no one wants to like, you know, ruin it, but like I wonder if there's any way you can sort of explain this awesome level that everyone talks
so
about.
you're like in England or something, and it's like this big mansion, and somebody dies, and so you need to figure out how the person dies. Um, and you don't really have you don't have a tracker or anything. You go in blind. It's like you need to figure out what's going on, and you need to figure out your target. And so you go in and you can knock out a detective that surprisingly looks a lot like you. And you can just go through and pretend to be this detective and sneak around and try and find evidence and just stuff to pin on other people like later in the narrative.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
The last thing about Hitman 3 is you can play all of 2 and 1's levels in it if you've got them. So I mean,
that is awesome.
Why wouldn't it be like the best out of all of them when you can play all
So
of
it
them?
has like improved like lighting and sound
Yeah.
and stuff, is it?
Yeah, and if you're playing it on the PS5, you can obviously customize like if you want to have ray tracing on, and it looks really good. It looks really good.
Sick. All right, Hitman 3.
Hitman
That brings us to Wes, your number 2 game.
My number 2 is Psychonauts 2.
Nice.
Which is a bit of a surprise. I feel like it's almost a surprise to me because we did Psychonauts 1 for a game club, and I played through that whole game, and I did not have a very good time playing that game. I just I appreciate it on a lot of levels for kind of the creativity and all the charm and the character that game has, but man, I just felt like it just didn't hold up on a gameplay standpoint in a lot of ways. So we finished that up. We played that kind of in anticipation of Psychonauts 2 coming out. And I finished that and I was like, I don't really care about Psychonauts 2. I'm not interested. I'm like less interested in Psychonauts 2 now and playing that game. And then the reviews dropped and it was like, Psychonauts 2 is amazing. Psychonauts 2 is one of the best games of the year. You need to play Psychonauts 2. And I'm like, and you know, I put a lot of stock in Easy Allies reviews, and particularly Ben Moore. And Ben Moore reviewed that game and he gave it a 9, I think.
Wow.
or 9.5, and he's like, "This is one of the best games I played all year," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to play Psychonauts 2." And I played Psychonauts 2, and it absolutely blew me away. It's just such an improvement over Psychonauts 1, I feel like, in almost every way. It plays so smooth, and it's so fun, and the level design is just out of this world. I mean, depending on what where you're at, the aesthetics totally change. The way that your character looks, the gags are all really funny. It's an experience that I played a lot of it with my daughter. It's it's a clean game. Like you can play it with your kids around and without having to worry, which is really great because there's not a lot of really good 3D platformers that I can say that about,
Hmm.
unless it's Mario or something. Um, and she really loved it. She got into it. Um, it it does a surprisingly good job of kind of touching on um, mental illness and
Yeah.
different psychological issues without being cliche or negative about those things. And I just had a really great time with that game. The collectibles were fun to get. It was fun looking for the secrets. It had cool side missions. I really loved all the characters. Just a fantastic game. Easily at the top of what I played this year.
Yeah, dude. I
Yeah.
think this is the one game this year that I haven't played that I regret not having played the most. Like, I really want to play this game. It sounds just so awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
There's
it's definitely worth it.
there's very little that I can say bad about this game. This was obviously it became my GOTY the instant that I finished playing it. And it's just so creative with its level design. It has amazing just stuff that you can't do in any other medium than video games, especially in terms of when you think about how a level is designed in a video game and it breaks dimensionality of how video game levels are designed. Like you go, okay, I'm going through this hallway, and if I turn right, I'd be going through this door. But it's like, no, I just went through like a portal, and I'm in a completely different room, and it breaks. It breaks. Yeah, how 3D structures are structured. Like it's like the TARDIS, like it's bigger on the inside.
mhm.
Like it's so wild how the levels are made. They're just phenomenal. It also deals with consent in a
Mm,
really adult way. Because Raz does something uh, without consent, and then a lot of stuff like snowballs from that, and then he has a conversation with someone about it, and then from then on in the game, he always asks consent before doing something, like going into people's minds. But
that's awesome.
and again, it deals with circumstance and the fallout from that. It deals with people's history, deals with how again, especially dealing with mental health and sexuality and stuff like that. And just it hits pretty hard for a game that is so like Tim Burton-esque and goofy. um it's yeah it's so good and
Yeah,
it
it
feels
does. It
amazing to
touches on a
play.
lot of mature topics. I mean, it
Yeah.
touches on alcoholism, it touches on
Hmm.
loss, it touches
Yep.
on,
Yeah.
um,
Oh.
revenge, and just a lot of different things.
Yeah, and that's it. Like the representations in the level are amazing, and they're always tying into whoever's mind you're in. But like, they're so wildly different and always fun to play. One of the biggest gripes probably about the game is just like fighting scrubs. It isn't like super engaging, but like the boss battles are really fun. Like the boss battles are really good, even if like the scrub fights aren't. It has amazing accessibility options. So for when my son wanted to play it, I just said, "Look, let's just make it. You won't have to have any tantrums or anything about this game. Let's just turn on invincibility for you, and you can just go through the game like just without having to worry about getting hit. You can just enjoy the platforming, um, and just get through the game." And he did, and he absolutely had a blast with it. So yeah.
Cool.
Heck yeah. Well, my number two game is Inscription, baby. This game was my GOTY before I played another game after it that I thought was even better. But the Inscription, it's so frustrating because it's one of those games you literally can't say anything about without ruining it.
Mm-hmm.
But because you can't say anything about it, you can't really like try to convince people to play it. You just have to like hope that they take your word for it.
Mhm.
But what I will say about this game is that like it presents itself as a roguelike or roguelite, and a lot of people automatically bounce off of that because they just don't like that genre. The game is not really a roguelike. It just wants you to think it is at
And it's,
first.
and it's also
Okay.
not just a card game, is what I also hear.
Yeah, it's not
yeah.
just a card game. It's not just the game completely changes into something else.
Yeah.
Like
It,
several
I,
times as you're
I
playing.
cannot wait for this game to come to consoles. Is
Yeah.
all I
And
can
the
say.
thing
Is 'cause
about it
I want to
is
play it so bad.
I
the
want to play
game
it more
is
too. I wish I
yeah.
could play it more because like
Yeah.
the on like the base, like the card game, the Slay the Spire-esque nature of it is done so well.
hmm
Like
They actually just like put out an update to the game where you can just keep playing well, I can't really say anything.
okay.
But yeah. But yeah, this game is just really freaking good. It's short, just a handful of hours to beat it. So it's not really a commitment. And you really will. I just feel like almost everyone will love this game and will surprise them.
Is there more for you after you beat it, or is it a kind of a one and done? But like you want to play it again for the gameplay, or is there more to it after you beat it? Or
It is
yeah,
pretty much like, see, that's what the funny thing is. It makes you think it's a roguelike, like in the marketing and how the
yeah.
game starts, but it's not. And when you finish it, it's done. But they've released an update for the game recently that allows you to keep playing it if you want to keep playing it, if that makes sense. But I can't really say much without
Yeah, yeah,
spoiling
cool.
it. But yeah, so play
Um,
Inscription. It's freaking dope.
yeah, I couldn't be more hyped for this game. All I've heard is amazing things about it, but I just need the way to play it.
Yeah. This game also does have like a story. That's not apparent at first. That gets deeper the more you play it, and the story is extremely interesting
Mm-hmm.
and is a cool level of like open to interpretation as to it. So yeah, that's my number two. S- Flip it on over to Steven, number two.
Psychonauts 2, baby. Psychonauts
Nice.
2.
Awesome.
So good.
All right. Well, we have approached the zenith of the discussion. Our number one GOTY picks of the year, or maybe not this year, but either way, Jonah, your number one GOTY pick.
Honestly, from what I've heard from you guys, I think I might be the only one with this one being my GOTY.
Hmm.
And it's Resident Evil Village.
Nice.
Dude. Again, like heavy spoiler territory, so we won't go into it very deep, but I mean, this game has like the perfect balance of action and spookiness in it. It's I wouldn't say it's near as spooky as 7, but
Yeah.
um I mean the action is done so right. They bring mercenaries back, and mercenaries is just like super fun. I wish it was like Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries where you could pick a character and whatnot, because like the arcadey nature of Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries was super fun, but I mean, they brought it back with
So
what they had,
you
and they
just
did a really good job with it.
you just choose loadouts then?
No, you start out every level. You start out with like X amount of money, some weapons and some ammo. And honestly, what I'd do is I'd sell everything in my inventory except for like my ammo. I'd buy like a different pistol, upgrade it to the max with what I had sold, and now I've got like this 60 round super fast firing, high damage, like 1911 that just blows through everything. And I'm just like stocking up on ammo and just blasting guys and trying to keep my combo up. It's really cool.
this is another game that I'm saving from a PS5 experience. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is like one I'm just saving for that high fidelity experience. Like I
Yeah.
could get it on my Series S or I could get it on a PS4, but I just want to. I'm savoring this. So, but one thing I just remember I was chatting to Jonah. I was playing Brothers at the time, and he was telling me about like for people that love the replayability of the Resident Evil games, like this one definitely has a very cool, unique weapon that hasn't shown up in a Resident Evil game before that you can unlock, like like your infinite rocket launchers and stuff like that. But it's a very iconic weapon that would have the lawyers like banging at the door. I'm sure, but yeah, that's all I'll say is that sounded really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this game is high up on my list of games of the year.
Same.
It didn't. It's my number 6, to be honest with
Okay.
you. Like it
Yeah.
almost cracked my top 5. But you're right. I mean, absolutely love this game. I loved all the lords, and they're it's like every different area that you go into felt really unique and interesting, and there was some really freaking kooky moments in this
Mm-hmm.
game that
Yep.
are definitely stand out in my head as some of the probably most interesting moments of the year by far.
I can't wait for Steven to play this and then just complain about Ethan the entire time.
Yeah.
I don't like Ethan. I don't like
Oh,
him as a character.
I
you're
mean,
gonna
Ethan's
love him
hands
in
are the
this
main
game.
characters.
Ethan's
you know.
hands are the main character in this game.
Yeah.
I just really loved the revelations to the story of this game. Like, you can't take the Resident Evil story seriously. Like, it's just like a hilarious, like kooky, just bizarre time, and I just cannot wait to see what they do with Resident Evil 9 or whatever they want to call it.
Or even the
it's gotta be
DLC,
bonkers.
man.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
I
we're
can't wait for
apparently now getting
the game.
because there was demand for it or whatever.
Apparently, there was
Capcom.
demand.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Is Leon president yet, or are we still waiting on that revelation?
Haven't you watched the Netflix series yet, Steven?
Yeah.
I mean, then you would know. If you want to hear more of us talking about Resident Evil Village, we have a whole spoiler cast that we did with Beaten Down Brian and Hunter Pearson, and I'd really recommend that you guys go back and listen to that. It was a really great time. We had a great conversation about
Oh
that
man,
game.
that was fun.
Deep
That was
dive
fun.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, great game. Cool. So moving along to Wes, number 1 GOTY.
My number 1 for the year was It Takes Two. So
Yay!
Meow 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 meow.
we kind of already talked about this one already, but like I said before, I just this game just kind of I wasn't expecting much from this game. I expected it to be kind of like a light, fun romp, and it just delivered on so many levels higher than I was expecting it to, and that's I feel like why it probably hit me so hard, just because it just kind of totally surpassed my expectations in pretty much every way. And also the fact that, I experienced it with one of my good friends, and um so I think that it kind of meant a lot more as an experience overall. Um and I don't think that there's not a lot of games that are specifically designed as co-op games.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't play this game any other way. I
Mhm.
guess you can if you have 2 controllers and you're like ridiculously skilled or something. And I think people have actually done that, but that's not the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
But I just really, really cherished that experience, and it just cause kind of like stayed with me the entire year, and that's kind of what made it so special for me this year.
Yeah, it's just like insane that like having a good time with your friend and like the sort of experience and conversations you're going to be having while you're playing the game with your friend is kind of like intended to be part of like the design
Yeah,
of this game. Like you
definitely.
have to play this game co-op.
Well, that's exactly right. It's why so many people think of like Halo 3 as their favorite game of all time, is because they were like 16 to 18 and they were playing like online with friends for the first time and just, hanging out. And so like, that's like why that game resonates so much,
Yeah,
for sure.
So
It's
let's
good.
move on to you, Caden. What's your number 1?
My number one is Unsighted. Little known indie game that nobody's playing except for
Hey,
Wes and
I
me.
played it.
Yeah,
I
and you
downloaded
liked
it
it,
on
and I
Game
appreciate
Pass.
that.
I downloaded
All
it on
right.
Game Pass. So
Um, Damn, this game just like blew me away. I just am a sucker for punishing time mechanics that annoy and frustrate most other people. So the gimmick of this game is every character has a time limit before they die, and you find a resource in the game that you can choose to give to any character to extend their lifespan. And each character kind of has like a special gift they'll give you if you keep them alive long enough. But at the same time, you can also use the same resource to give yourself more, essentially Estus flasks in this game. So you have to choose between keeping people alive or having a better chance of staying alive in fights. And the fighting is no joke in this game. Like it's really challenging, even like normal fights, like traversing the environment, let alone boss fights.
Yeah.
Really, really satisfying combat too. Like everything feels good. The parries just like automatic criticals for getting a parry. There's guns. So you can have a sword and an axe, two swords, two axes, or a sword and a gun, or an axe and a gun, or two guns, and just pew pew pew. And then it's got the Gears of War like perfect reload
oh,
thing.
Oh,
love
I do
that.
not like that.
You
I don't
don't?
like that at
Oh.
all. I hate it.
So if you
I
get the
don't.
perfect reload, does it make your gun stronger?
No,
No,
it reloads
just
it
Oh,
instantly.
automatically,
oh,
so
okay.
that you don't have to wait like an extra like
Yeah,
Half
and
a
you
like
move
second or whatever.
slower while you're reloading, so you're in danger. It also has like hidden mechanics that are there from the start that it just doesn't tell you about. Like, there's a thing where if you double tap a certain button, it automatically refills your stamina. Um, so that helps a lot in the combat, but there's like a downside because you have to like stop moving, like you're taking a breather to like instantly refill your stamina. But while you're doing it, you can still parry at any time. So it's like you're in the middle of an intense fight, and then you instantly refill your stamina, and the enemy's about to attack you, and you can't move, but then you parry it. But not to scare anyone off, though, the time mechanic is completely optional. Like it's literally asks you first thing when you start the game, like, do you want to just turn it off? And then you can just treat it like a Zelda game or whatever, and just take your
turned it
sweet
off.
time exploring. Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it
So
it was gonna make it a lesser experience for me, and I didn't want that. So
exactly, yeah.
and I'm glad that I did turn it off. But
Mhm.
if you want to do it the other way, yeah, absolutely.
I just had a hilarious experience with it because there's also a mechanic with a certain character later in the game that is like death basically, and they offer to kill other characters for you and transfer their remaining lifespan to yours because you also have a lifespan. And you also have a character that's very much like Navi in Ocarina of Time, and she has a lifespan too. So I got to a point in the game where I was having to constantly feed her this resource to keep her alive because she was so low on remaining lifespan. So I just decided to kill her off, and then I didn't realize you can't. So this game has an upgrade system with chips that give you like new abilities, like increasing your attack damage or extra health or like more defense or whatever, and you have to equip chips and slots. And so you can spend currency to get more slots to equip more chips to get more powerful. So after I sacrificed the fairy companion, I didn't realize she's a necessary component to be able to buy new chip slots. So I was like,
Oh, she
oh
is?
shit. Yeah, so if you
I
kill her,
didn't tell
you
you
can't buy
that.
new chip slots. So that was like a really funny, like cool consequence to be doing that. But just real quick, like outside of the game itself, like this game just I think really stands for a lot. Like so it's an indie game. It's literally made by two people. One of the developers is a trans woman, and like the main character is like a black female lesbian robot. So it's just it's nice to see like it's trendy a lot for AAA games to have like an LGBTQ character, but usually they're not important to the plot, and they're usually just there solely to be able to be like, "Hey, I'm gay," or "Hey, I'm
Yeah,
trans."
we
Like,
have
all right, see
representation.
ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not what this game is at all. Like, it's not like it doesn't even really make a big deal. You're not even sure if the character that your main character you're playing is in love with them until the end of the game when they like consummate their love with a kiss or whatever. And like the whole gender thing is just like really meta too because they're androids. So it's like, are they really male? Are they really female? Do they identify as male and female? Because they're robots, So
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool. But I just think everyone should play this game. It's freaking dope. I honestly can't think of something bad to say about it. I just love it. So
The one thing that excites me the most is that consequence system. My question is like, because like I haven't really played Dead Rising, but I understand that's sort of similar in that sense. But is there a good tracker? Like, if you talk to everyone, do you have a tracker to know what day or what time or how much time you've got left with every person?
yeah.
And
So
If you pause the game, you can go to a menu and it'll show exactly how much time everybody has left that you
Yeah.
met.
So it gives you a linear structure to who to save and all that sort of stuff. And obviously, do they always give you enough time to save everyone? Like,
the game does warn
sometimes
you.
it's
It's
like,
like,
oh, will two people die within 5 minutes of each other?
yeah, so
Sometimes.
the game has a warning that pops up. They're like, when a character has 24 hours left to live. And I think the game's scale is like an hour in game time is like a minute in real time. So once it tells you someone has 24 hours left to live, they have like 24 minutes of real time to live. So you do have plenty of time to do something about it at that point if you want to or are able to.
Yeah.
Um, Playing with that system on is really cool because it just lends a lot more weight to your decisions. Because, like I said, every character has like a special thing that they'll give you if they stay alive long enough. Like the best gun in the game, you can only get if a certain character stays alive long enough. One of the best weapons you can only get. There's like stuff like normally you can only equip chips at a save point, but there's a character if they stay alive long enough, they give you an item that lets you swap your chips at any time. So, like if you use your resource to keep certain people alive, then you're essentially sacrificing other people and you can't get their items. So you have to choose.
I feel like I should mention though that when we say like they'll only give you these things if you keep them alive long enough, you're basically extending their life by giving them this like limited resource.
Mm,
As soon as you give them 3 of the limited resource, that's enough to meet the qualification that
right.
they give you the item.
And
So
then they
it's
could
not
die.
like
Doesn't matter.
there's a timer that's ticking down. Like you have to keep them alive for like 55 in-game days for them to, it's just like if you give them 3 of the resource, that's enough, and
Yeah.
they'll give you the thing.
Yeah.
It's like you've met the requirement.
Mm.
So
But
I didn't
again,
realize that you have to give them multiple. I thought you just give them one and then that's it.
No,
the-
yeah,
you have to. They have little hearts next to their like picture when you're talking to them, and you start out at 1. Every time you give them another one of the resource, then it adds a heart, and when it gets to 4, then they give you their special thing.
right.
Cool.
I forgot to mention that there's secret dogs and cats you can find in this
Oh,
game and
yeah.
rescue, and they become like an AI companion that fights next to you and follows you throughout the whole game. And you can pet them and feed them and give them naps to increase how much they like you, and it'll make them fight better. So, and you
Yeah.
can name them.
But if you let them nap, it takes away your time.
Exactly. It's
So
like the give and
one
take.
final question about how the game is designed around time and it always being a precious resource is, does that take away from your ability to soak in the environments and the pixel art and stuff like
100%.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a situation I ran into myself where I got to the end of the game and then I realized there was a secret optional dungeon. And then I was like, well, crap, I definitely want to do the secret optional dungeon, but literally like half the characters in the game they have less
Dead.
than 24 hours left to live. So I was like, well, I guess they're dying. So like I went to the death lady and just literally had her just go ahead and just kill everybody because like at least I could get their life force from them. So I was able to 100% the map and find all the secrets, but by the end of the game, everyone was dead but me. So I just love that kind of thing. But again, if that's not your cup of tea, you can just turn it off, and then it's just like a normal explore to your heart's content and enjoy the story.
And
get
it's
the
like
best
more
it.
of a almost like what do you call Stardew Valley? You just like you giving
Mhm.
someone presents to make them like you kind of
Exactly,
thing
yeah.
instead.
The game does
Yeah.
have a speedrunner mode and a new game plus where you can keep all of your gear and chips and everything, and then there's a higher difficulty you unlock when you beat the game, and so
Yeah. The game's no joke though, so
yeah.
you should know what you're getting into because like the first time I just ran outside the central town, like the first time, and I just got demolished.
Yeah.
It's like you really need to be careful because you're basically kind of like a glass cannon in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the parry system is absolutely critical. You cannot, I shouldn't say you cannot, you can get through the game without parrying, but you're gonna have a real bad time.
I will
It's
say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's really built around the parry, I feel like, in a lot of
Uh,
cases.
just in case I was like scared of the parry, it is more forgiving than something like Dark Souls, for instance, because there's two levels to parrying. There's a perfect parry where it subdues the enemy and lets you do a critical, and then there's like an imperfect parry where it hits you like out of the frames of the perfect parry, but you still deflect the attack. So
Mm.
it's
Nice.
it's really forgiving. Like it's not like if you don't get the parry, you're gonna get hit and die. So
Yep.
yeah, but yeah.
Sweet.
I guess that's my number one game. Play Unsighted. Woo! Steven, number one game.
My number one game, it hasn't come up yet. No, it has. Is Metroid Dread. And
Nice.
the main things that I just want to say about it that I didn't say before, probably it's interesting because like I gave it a 9.4, and everyone on our GGD discussion was like, oh, why is it a 9.4? It's like because like 9.5 is like perfect, like it is like a near perfect game, whereas I do
Oh,
feel like
I,
there are certain gripes with this game that are completely valid, which is how heart the frick energy tanks. Energy tanks mean very little to the game. Like they give you a
yeah.
little bit more survivability, but as you get into the later bosses, they start taking out like 3 to 4 energy tanks per hit. So it can feel a little bit like Death's Door, but you do have a lot of ways of getting health back during a boss fight. So the boss fights are just an absolute ballet. Like they're just so engaging and so phenomenally crafted. They feel so good to do. I went back when my son was playing and did all of the speed run tactics of like getting bombs early, and doing that sort of cool stuff, and doing shine sparks into the bosses to take out like a big chunk of their health. And yeah, so I got to experience it twice. Got to beat the final boss twice, and the second time I fought the final boss, like when on my son's first playthrough, I got it in one go. So that's how much you learn about the game. Just the abilities are so good. The Shine Spark is easy to use, unlike previous games where I always felt very terrible at using it in like Super Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission and stuff like that. I was never good at doing Shine Sparks. And then also yeah, it just has such a good learning curve for so many abilities, and it tells you exactly what to do in a boss fight. For instance, if you go into a boss room and you've got to do a dash to get into said boss room, guess what? They're telling you to use your dash ability, and don't forget that you got it, because a lot of people do. It's also one of the coolest dashes because you get 3 of them in an air dash or a ground dash, but it doesn't have iframes, which is it's such a cool balancing act,
Yeah.
because you will think that, oh, I'm just going to dash it through the enemy. And no, you just bump into the enemy and get hurt. Like you've got to think about your movements. And that's
Yeah, I
why it's
really
just,
like that.
it's just really cool. It's like, you've got amazing maneuverability, but just remember you still get hurt like a lot. But yeah, that's like probably my biggest gripe is just the energy tanks just feel not useless, but just like very less important. You don't have any reserve tanks like
Yeah.
Super Metroid and stuff like that. And then the parry. That's the other thing. Again, like that's probably my biggest gripe with Dark Souls. This one is all just like it's just giving you cake every time you do a parry. It just feeds you. It feeds all the dopamine because it's just bam, instant lock on, shoot. It'll kill the enemy
You're
pretty
dead.
much.
Yeah.
Which is just so rewarding. Whereas my biggest issue with Dark Souls is not the fact that you're going to get an instant kill. Like I don't care about an instant kill, but the fact that you've timed a parry doesn't mean that you'll get a riposte. You've still got to stop, be in the right position to either get a turn around and get a backstab, or get a critical. And it's something that I feel like I can only get 40% of the time. Even if I get the parry, the riposte could just sometimes just not happen because you'll hit the button too quickly, or you're holding forward and you hit the button. It's like, yeah. So yeah, there's just again, it's just about the feeling. It's so good. I think the story is really, really well done. I think how it handles there's actually a lot more to the story than it seems if you get to the ending and then think about back to what has happened previously. There's a lot more to the story, and again, like just Samus's characterization is just so badass, and yeah, it just feels so good to play, and it feels so good to go back to once you know how to play the game as well. It's just it's really good. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things about this game is just that it gave us all those like 30-minute long essay videos of that guy, David Jaffe, just like whining like a little baby about this game and just really going off about how bad it is. And it's like, no one agrees with you, dude. But anyway, cool. So there you have it, folks. That's our official GOTY list. Let's go around one more time. Jonah, what's your GOTY?
So I had RE Village, Hitman 3, Metroid Dread, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Little Nightmares 2.
Wes?
Yeah, from top to bottom, it was Life is Strange: True Colors, Death's Door, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, and It Takes Two as number 1.
Nice. For me, Metroid Dread, Death's Door, Monster Hunter Rise, Inscription, and Unsighted as my number 1. And Steven?
Skyward Sword, Forgotten City, play Forgotten City. Other games in that list. It Takes Two, Psychonauts 2, and Metroid Dread, but play Forgotten City.
Cool. So anything we really else need to talk about, guys, or just final word and wrap it up?
Thank you for an awesome year of a podcast. We kept with it for a year. Thank you guys. It's been a blast. Game Club is going to be starting again, and we'll probably skip January and go straight into February. Give people time to play the game, but yeah, stay tuned.
Cool. Wes, final thought?
I mean, Jonah summarized it pretty well. I was just gonna, just thank everybody for kind of sticking with us for the last year. It's been a hell of a year. It feels like we've been doing this for a lot longer than 1 year. Personally,
I mean, we're coming up on 2 years on the Discord, man.
But yeah,
February.
But it's been a great time, and I love you guys, and thanks for taking this ride with me.
Hell yeah.
Final thoughts, Steven?
Well, I'm hoping our schedules line up a bit better next year. We're hoping that I might possibly be a regular on the show. So we'll see how that happens. And the only other thing is if the episode's too long, you can blame Jonah because he wanted to do the debate. So
sweet. Well, we're the Great Game Debate podcast. Find us on YouTube, a Great Game Debate channel. Twitter is at Great Game Debate, spelled DEB, the number 8. And I think both those places and any of our Twitters will give you a link to our Discord where you can engage in great, wholesome, non-toxic pop culture discussion. And I've been your host, Katie Berthay Lane, and my final thoughts just echo these wonderful people. Thanks so much for doing this podcast with me for a year, and thanks to all our listeners, just everyone else in the Discord for keeping us all sane during the pandemic, because I think that had a lot to do with my sanity. So yeah, happy gaming. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
as always, a big thank you to our friend Misdriven for the music in our podcast. If you like what you hear and you want to check out more of what they have, you can pay them a visit on Twitter at MISTRIVEN719 or on Bandcamp at Misdriven. Thanks again for tuning in. Till next time.